So I've started another project. With the imminent release of what's going on with those shadows? With the imminent release of virtual reality stuff, I figured it would be fun to have a play around with some virtual reality stuff. So I've got this idea for a game in which the player assembles a vehicle out of bits and pieces and drives slash flies slash walks around in it. So this is the cockpit. There's the player in there. And so the cockpit is the size of your play space, so you can move around freely inside your cockpit. And you basically haven't quite worked out how it works, whether I'm going to scale the assembly process so it looks tiny and then it becomes huge, or whatever. But the basic gist of it is the player takes the cockpit and attaches bits to it, Kerbal Space Program style. So you might put some legs on the bottom, put some guns on the side, and put a bit of glass over the front, or whatever. And the control system is entirely modular. So over here I've got a throttle component. So it's modelled and textured by myself, so it looks like arse. It's got a hole on the bottom, but we'll come to that. So this at the present doesn't do very much. You get it and you can tilt it, and in lieu of actually having any of the motion controllers or anything, or having to do stuff just by sort of thrashing it about and seeing how it works. So there's a bunch of stuff I'll have to do when I get the controllers, like have the movable sections glow when you put your hand near them, and do haptic buzzy stuff when you move them, and I'm sure loads and loads will change. So this is one of the components that the player can grab and attach to the wall, and or attach to something in their cockpit so they can control it. And so I'm thinking they'll have one hand on the throttle to push them to change their speed, and they'll have another hand, pressing a button over here to do something, and another hand, the third hand over here doing something else. And so you're sort of frantically reaching around your custom-made cockpit, grabbing stuff and pressing buttons and twiddling knobs and throwing wheels around and all kinds of fun stuff. It's sort of very hectic. But there needs to be some way of linking this to what it's going to affect. That's affect with an E. So you might want to affect a wheel, say, for instance, this wonderful wheel here, which has got, I'm trying to get Unity suspension working. It kind of works. What you see there is not the actual wheel, but there's the wheel. So the wheel sort of doesn't work properly. Anyway, so you want to be able to attach the throttle to the wheel, so when you push the throttle, the wheel starts spinning, or attach it to the big stompy robot legs, so your robot legs start moving, that kind of stuff. So I thought what I'll do is, for every device that produces an output, such as a control from the player like this, or for example, if the wheel has something it would like to report, like, I don't know, speed, and then it would have a receiver that it comes bundled with. So when you take this out of the box, if you like, it has a receiver clicked into the bottom here, and so the player grabs this with their hand, with their controller, motion controller, flips it over and pulls the receiver out of the bottom, and then they click that into something they want to control, and then this sends the signal to the receiver. I have one up here, it's very small, throttle receiver, and then whatever they click that into is affected by the position of the throttle. So you can attach it to the wheel, or you could attach it to the throttle input on a engine or a reactor or a leg or a weapon, or I don't know if a weapon makes sense, but anyway, attach it to something, and then that value gets transmitted to the thing you attach it to via the receiver. So it's sort of a fun way of doing programming. Basically, you're associating that control or wiring up your invention. So as an example, I've got a dial. So this dial here, out of the factory by default with nothing attached to it. Let me just do that. It doesn't do anything. The needle sort of just flops around and swings around in the breeze, as you can see. But probably see where this is going. If I slot the receiver into the back of it, it does something. So yeah, because I don't have motion controllers, I just have to position things so that they fall together to test the snapping and joining and physicsy stuff that results. And because I can't grab that throttle to demonstrate the motion, I'll give it a rotate. And look at that! The needle on that turns to mirror the position of the throttle. So you can see how if you took the receiver out of the throttle, clicked it into the wheel, took the speed receiver out of the wheel and put it in here, then you could have a speedo. So in addition to the raw value, it also transmits some information about, where that value came from, its minimum and maximum values, so it can display some actual numbers on here. And I'm foreseeing being able to sort of scale this to suit how you want your cockpit laid out. And so it's not hard to imagine building your own custom cockpit with all the bits you want in it, and they all work the way you want them to work. So that's that, and that's how that works. I put a lot of thought, probably not enough thought, I'm probably going to have to scrap it all once I actually get the controllers for it, but how things snap together nicely. So I've got these little invisible blobs, well, they're visible in the editor, blobs that describe this as being a plug and that as being a socket. And when those two purple blobs get close to each other, they run a few checks to see if they're appropriate for each other, and then they click together and they change the orientation. So if I do that, it changes its orientation so it lines up properly and does a bunch of stuff to make sure it slips in nicely, like turns off colliders and changes the position and rotation and everything. Now, I don't know how that's going to interact with the grabbed state, so a player's going to be able to grab that and hold it near this, and I don't want it to leap out of their hand, but they need to hint to the player somehow that if they let go right now, it's not going to fall to the ground, it's going to click into that, and that's presumably what they want. Anyway, food for thought. Bye bye.